The Cedar Fair Entertainment Company is an amusement park operator, host to over 15 different properties across the United States and Canada. Some of the chain's most popular parks include Cedar Point, Knott's Berry Farm, Canada's Wonderland and Kings Island. Alongside their amusement parks, Cedar Fair operates multiple hotels, resorts, and recreational facilities. In 2019, these attractions combined greeted close to 28 million guests annually, making the company one of the largest amusement park operators in the nation. Across their attractions, Cedar Fair has one primary mission: to make people happy. Their stock symbol spells the word fun, a reflection of what their amusement parks aim to provide. However, like many theme park chains, Cedar Fair didn't start out with 15 properties. In fact, it all started with just one, a location on a small peninsula in Sandusky, Ohio. In the early 1800s, Cedar Point wasn't an amusement park, but a piece of land situated along Lake Erie. The peninsula consisted mainly of sandy beaches and cedar trees. In 1867, a newspaper article was published in the Sandusky Register proposing the idea for someone to build a bathing house along the shores of Cedar Point. They stated that there was no finer place for bathing in the world. Louis Zistel saw the opportunity and between 1867 and 1869 opened roughly a dozen bathing houses along the shore. The idea was a success. Zistel continued to expand his property by constructing a beer garden, dance floor, and playground. He also began to operate a steamboat named Young Reindeer to shuttle patrons between Cedar Point and Sandusky. However, 10 years later, the peninsula took a major step to becoming the place we know today by installing a swing-style ride on the water of the lake. Cedar Point continued to develop throughout the 1880s, constructing new bathhouses, dance floors, and walkways. They even introduced a fireworks show. The expansion was complemented in 1888 with the opening of the Grand Pavilion, a building adorned with a concert hall, theatre, bar, and bowling alley. During this development period, Zistel transferred ownership to a group of 4 local businessmen. Under their leadership, Cedar Point built its first roller coaster, the Switchback Railway. The ride was a classic gravity-powered wooden coaster which took America by storm during this point in time. Although, despite the investment, Cedar Point found itself in financial trouble. Fortunately, in 1897, an Indiana businessman, George A. Berkling, purchased Cedar Point and quickly began to heavily invest in the park. The property's first hotel, Bay Shore, opened in 1899, while just 3 years later, George opened another roller coaster, Racer. This was only the beginning, however. A larger 600-room establishment, Hotel Breakers, was built in 1905. This was followed by the debut of 2 new roller coasters, Dip the Dips and Leap the Dips, in 1908 and 1912 respectively. In 1906, the park built the Coliseum, as well as the amusement circle, a carousel, several fun houses, and other attractions. As a result of the investment, Cedar Point became host to roughly 10,000 guests per day during the summer months. Despite the threat of the Great Depression, Berkling managed to keep Cedar Point afloat by cutting admission costs and hosting big-name bands for concerts. Unfortunately, this came to a sudden halt in 1931 with George A. Berkling's death. During the next 20 years, Cedar Point began to decline in quality. By the early 1950s, only one of the original 4 roller coasters was in operation. The park needed something new. 2 investors, George A. Roos and Emile Legros, believed the land would be better suited as a lakeside residential development. This, however, was quickly rejected. Instead, they proposed to make Cedar Point a state park instead of an amusement park. Public backlash caused the investors to rethink this idea too. Fortunately, in 1955, California saw the debut of Disneyland, a new state-of-the-art theme park. Disneyland's success gave Roos and Legros the confidence to purchase Cedar Point for $313,000 and maintain it as a theme park. However, neither of them had any experience in managing an amusement park. Despite this, they determined the best idea to rebuild Cedar Point would be to invest in new attractions. As a result, an additional $18 million was invested into the park to improve its facilities and construct new rides. They built Blue Streak, a Philadelphia Toboggan Coaster's wooden coaster, in 1964, along with a new area of the park, Frontier Town. The following year, the owners constructed the Cedar Creek Mine Ride, an aerodynamics mine train located in the new area. Ultimately, the investment paid off. Cedar Point saw a significant growth in attendance and profits. The park doubled its visitor numbers from 1 to 2 million between 1960 and 1965. The following decade saw a huge number of new major amusement parks popping up across the United States. Ruse and Legros recognized that for Cedar Point to remain competitive, they needed to make some changes. Under the guidance of new CEO Rob Munger, the park established a front entrance, making it a single price admission. This was followed by several investments during the decade to cement Cedar Point's place as one of the nation's best amusement parks. They installed Corkscrew in 1976, a ride which, at the time, had the most inversions of any roller coaster in the world. This was followed 2 years later by the debut of Gemini, a large-scale racing roller coaster. However, the Cedar Point company had bigger ideas than just rides. In 1978, Cedar Point purchased Valley Fair, an amusement park in Shakopee, Minnesota. Valley Fair had opened just 2 years prior with an initial $5.7 million investment. Their first 2 years of operation were successful, but the owners of the park wanted to accelerate its expansion and therefore needed additional investment. As a result, Cedar Point acquired the park, sharing their amusement expertise. Though, while Cedar Point was purchasing smaller amusement parks, other amusement park operators were looking to purchase Cedar Point. By 1975, the park was attracting over 3 million visitors each year, which made them attractive to external buyers, including Taft Broadcasting Co., MCA Inc., and Marriott. However, the park turned all these offers down and began developing its own legacy. This was kickstarted in 1982 when Cedar Point and Valley Fair became a member of the newly formed Cedar Fair Partnership, the parent company of the two parks and the name we know today. 5 years later, in 1987, Valley Fair's general manager, Richard Dick Kinzel, became the president of Cedar Fair. Dick would go on to lead the company on an extremely competitive path, one filled with innovative rides and more park acquisitions. 1987 also saw Valley Fair's attendance surpass 1 million for the first time. A year later, Soak City, a large-scale water park, opened at Cedar Point. In 1989, Kinzel debuted Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point, the world's first full-circuit roller coaster to break the 61-meter, 200-foot height barrier, being dubbed a hyper coaster in the process. The development of Magnum would establish Cedar Fair's passion to build record-breaking and innovative rides, and would also serve as the catalyst for the Coaster Wars, a period in time which saw theme parks battle to build the world's tallest roller coasters. The 1990s only saw the growth of Cedar Point and Cedar Fair as a whole accelerate further. In 1991, Cedar Point built Mean Streak, the world's tallest wooden roller coaster. The following year, Cedar Fair acquired its third amusement park, Dorney Park and Wildwater Kingdom, in Allentown, Pennsylvania, at the cost of $48 million. Then, in 1995, Cedar Point purchased Worlds of Fun and Oceans of Fun, another amusement park located near Kansas City, Missouri. The introduction of these new properties to Cedar Fair's portfolio saw the company's revenue grow even further. By 1996, Cedar Fair was host to over 6 million visitors annually and generated revenues of roughly $250 million. Their success led to further growth. In 1997, Cedar Fair purchased Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. This would become the chain's first property to operate all year round, providing revenue at all times. Alongside Knott's Berry Farm, the company also acquired Knott's Camp Snoopy, located at the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota. By 1999, attendance across all Cedar Fair properties had reached a whopping 11.8 million. The strategy of rapid expansion continued well into the 2000s. In 2001, Cedar Fair purchased Michigan's Adventure in Muskegon, Michigan for $27.6 million. Though on the smaller side, the park was deemed to have a large potential to grow. This purchase was also accompanied by Cedar Fair acquiring 2 different Knott Soak City water parks, both located in California. The chain continued to expand. In 2004, they built their first indoor water park, Castaway Bay, in Sandusky, Ohio, and purchased another amusement park, Six Flags Worlds of Adventure, in Aurora, Ohio. Acquired at the cost of $145 million, Cedar Fair quickly changed the name of the park to Geauga Lake. The following year, they expanded the site through the construction of a $26 million water park, Wildwater Kingdom. By 2005, the company entertained roughly 12.7 million guests each year, which brought in $569 million in revenue. Though it wasn't all success for Cedar Fair. Prior to its purchase, Geauga Lake had been declining in popularity. Cedar Fair hoped that they could turn around its fate and re-establish the popularity of the park, but unfortunately that just wasn't the case. At the end of the 2006 season, 2 roller coasters were removed from the park and relocated to other Cedar Fair properties. Then, in 2007, they announced that the park would close permanently. Although the water park, Wildwater Kingdom, would continue to operate for a further few years until its closure in September of 2016. Bad news continued to follow. In 2007, Cedar Fair failed to reach a licensing agreement for its Camp Snoopy park within the Mall of America. This led to the Mall of America operating the park alone, eventually rebranding it to Nickelodeon Universe. Despite the challenges encountered in 2007, Cedar Fair continued to grow by making their largest acquisition yet. They purchased all of the properties owned by Paramount Parks for $1.24 billion. This included 5 amusement parks: Kings Island, Kings Dominion, Canada's Wonderland, Carowinds, and Paramount's Great America. The acquisition also included other smaller properties such as Star Trek The Experience in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the rights to manage the Bonfante Gardens family theme park in Gilroy, California. Upon the purchase of the Paramount properties, Cedar Fair rebranded itself, becoming the Cedar Fair Entertainment Company. More recently, the company's expansion has slowed down. In 2011, Dick Kinzel retired as the CEO of Cedar Fair, with Matt Wimay, former president of Disney Cruise Line and Disneyland Resort, taking his place. Then, in 2012 and 2013 respectively, the chain sold both Knott Splash City properties, one to SeaWorld Parks Entertainment and the other to CNL Lifestyle Properties. In 2017, CEO Matt Wimay stepped down and Richard Zimmerman, former COO of Cedar Fair, took his position. More recently, in 2019, the company purchased Schlitterbahn New Braunfels Water Park and Resort and Schlitterbahn Water Park Galveston, both located in Texas, for $261 million. Today, the Cedar Fair Entertainment Company owns 11 different amusement parks scattered at various points across North America. These include California's Great America, Canada's Wonderland, Carowinds, Cedar Point, Dorney Park, Kings Dominion, Kings Island, Knott's Berry Farm, Michigan's Adventure, Valley Fair, and Worlds of Fun. Though the company has only built and owned one of these properties from its inception. Upon acquiring many of its properties, Cedar Fair often goes through a phase of rapid expansion. For example, after purchasing Valley Fair in 1978, the chain built Corkscrew, an aerodynamics custom looping roller coaster. The ride was similar to the Corkscrew built at Cedar Point just 4 years earlier. Cedar Fair acquired Dorney Park in 1992 and Worlds of Fun in 1995. Both saw the addition of a large-scale hypercoaster, Steel Force, and Mamba respectively. Each ride is somewhat similar to Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point, but is instead built by D.H. Morgan Manufacturing. Knott's Berry Farm was acquired by Cedar Fair in 1997, and 5 years later, Accelerator, the world's first hydraulic launch coaster, opened at the park. Cedar Fair purchased Canada's Wonderland, Kings Island, Kings Dominion, Carowinds, and California's Great America in 2006. All 4 of the larger sized parks saw sizable investments shortly after. 3 B&M hypercoasters were built in 2008, 2009, and 2010, Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland, Diamondback at Kings Island, and Intimidator at Carowinds respectively. Whilst Kings Dominion saw the construction of Intimidator 305, an Intamin Gigacoaster, also in 2010. Many of the chain's larger theme parks have continued to see large-scale roller coaster investments periodically over time. Orion, a B&M Gigacoaster, opened at Kings Island in 2020, whilst 2019 saw the construction of Copperhead Strike at Carowinds, a Muck Rides multi-launch coaster, and Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland, the world's largest B&M dive coaster. Throughout the Cedar Fair chain, multiple park events also take place throughout the year. During the Halloween season, all of their amusement parks feature some form of Halloween haunt, which sees multiple scare mazes and scare zones set up throughout the parks to give guests an additional thrilling experience. After this, some Cedar Fair attractions hold Winterfest, a holiday-themed event giving guests the opportunity to engage in winter activities with a limited selection of attractions open. The chain has also begun to roll out other events throughout the season too, including Grand Carnival, an event themed to regions of the world and offering food and beverages of various cultures, and Monster Jam Thunder Alley, a monster truck experience giving guests the chance to learn about the sport and take a ride in a monster truck. Since the debut of Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point, Cedar Fair has consistently taken risks in new roller coaster technology. The amusement chain has constructed some of the world's tallest and fastest roller coasters over its existence across its diverse portfolio of parks. The company quickly began building the world's biggest versions of a specific type of ride. Raptor and Mantis at Cedar Point became the world's largest inverted coaster and stand-up coaster respectively. Cedar Point's Millennium Force also debuted as the world's tallest roller coaster in 2000, becoming the first ride to break the 300-foot, 91-meter height barrier. Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm became the first roller coaster to utilize a hydraulic launch, which is capable of propelling riders to speeds of up to 132 km per hour, 82 miles per hour in just 2.3 seconds. This technology was then used to construct Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point in 2003, a ride which became the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster. In 2010, Cedar Fair would go on to construct the second Giga Coaster in North America, Intimidator 305. This was followed by North America's third, fourth, and fifth Giga Coaster in 2012, 2015, and 2020 respectively, Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland, Fury 325 at Carowinds, and Orion at Kings Island. Cedar Fair haven't been afraid to construct the world's largest versions of any ride, leading to many of the chain's roller coasters featuring impressive statistics. On the global scale, Cedar Fair ranks as the 5th biggest amusement park chain that operates in North America in order of total attendance based on 2019 figures. When considering operators of regional American theme parks, excluding the likes of Disney and Universal, Cedar Fair ranks 3rd, behind the likes of Merlin Entertainments and Six Flags, though it could be argued that Six Flags is their main rival. In 2019, Six Flags properties attracted close to 33 million visitors compared to the 28 million of the Cedar Fair company. Both are host to a range of amusement parks across North America, and each offer their own lucrative season pass which enables guests to visit any Cedar Fair or Six Flags park across the continent. Looking back, it's impressive that one of the world's largest amusement park chains was created from just a single attraction, Cedar Point. The company's parks are known for their large collections of thrill rides, often being home to some of the biggest roller coasters within their state. For many, this allows Cedar Fair to achieve their primary mission of making people happy. Have you been to a Cedar Fair park? If so, we'd love to hear about your experiences with the amusement park chain in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.